One really interesting tool on your list is storytelling. The idea that people understand well-told stories better than elaborate presentations or PowerPoints. And of course your book is a great example of that. The Knight Hennessy fundraising and the 2008 fundraising were good examples to me of that in kind of opposite directions, in that Knight Hennessy was future-oriented. It was saying, if we had these resources, we could do these amazing things by creating a new generation of leaders over and over again, and this would be a great benefit to the world. The fundraising to maintain financial aid, on the other hand, after the meltdown in the endowment in 2008, was really more about recognizing that what we had was important to preserve. Need-blind admission for all students, and making sure that by showing what those students who had had financial aid 30 years ago had gone on to do, that was worth fighting for, and it was worth sacrificing for to make sure that we can do that. Do you have other favorite storytelling things in your leadership career where storytelling made a big difference?
You know, I think stories make something personal. They bring you up close to it so you can see it. I mean, in the case of Knight Hennessy, we didn't have any Knight Hennessy scholars yet. So I couldn't tell you great stories about the scholars we had because we didn't have them yet. Now we have them, so now we have great stories to tell you. So what did I do? I went through the list of Rhodes Scholars and picked out some people I really admired and said, we could build a program like that, maybe even better than that, given we do it in sunny California in this highly entrepreneurial institution. And it could have a similar size impact or larger. So that enabled me to couple it to something that was really very personal and very, you know, in the case of financial aid, we had the benefit of the stories of students who had benefited from it. We also, when we went to our alumni and the trustees for help on financial aid in the aftermath of the financial crisis, we had already cut the budget of the university. Everybody had had a salary freeze. The senior leadership had actually taken a salary decrease. So then I could go to the board and say, we've cut across the board in terms of things. I don't want to cut financial aid at a time when families are going to be struggling more, not less. And in fact, we discovered we underestimated our financial aid need because a lot of families who had two parents working all of a sudden found themselves with only one parent working. So that made it a lot easier to talk about the importance of that commitment and that we had already made other sacrifices to maintain it. And therefore, we needed philanthropic help to really try to close the gap.
Yeah. It was remarkable, the events that were held around the financial aid, to realize not just people who had gone on to fame and fortune, but also our own faculty members who had been students here and had would have been unable to go without that financial aid. Changing topics for a moment. As best I can recall, you had never done any formal training in leadership along the way. The School of Hard Knocks.
School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, which is a pretty effective school.
Especially if it's in a startup company. It's a very time-compressed way of learning. You get to do lots of different roles you've never done before. I mean, I did everything. I did cold sales. I was the technical spokesman for the company. Everybody should do sales once if they want to lead an organization because it's really will give them a deep appreciation of how hard it is.
Well, we're all in sales.
We are in sales.
All that changes is the product job.
Yes, exactly. That's probably true. So, yeah, but I didn't have formal training.
But as you now lead the Knight Hennessy Scholars, and we say that we aspire for them to be a generation of leaders, What are you thinking about as ways to do that leadership training?
So we are thinking about ways in which we can help our scholars develop both skills as well as insights, whether it's developing a sense of empathy by whether it's going over to the hospital and visiting people who are struggling for their lives, or it's getting involved in a service project somewhere in the local community and understand those relationships and how to work with people without having the, well, I'm here to save you complex, which I think often leads to disconnect. Building up skills for public speaking. The other night we had an event with Rob Capello, who does the program What Makes It Great, and it was about listening. And he talked about how, as a conductor, his job is to really help the players, the musicians, collaborate. That they have the music, but if they're not collaborating on that music, if they're not listening to one another, if he's not helping them through that process and cueing little things, it doesn't sound quite as great as it does when everything works right. So it was a really interesting insight. You don't think about music necessarily as something that's really about collaboration and teamwork, but it is. It is.
The